get into the game, I want to talk about something that I've been thinking about since we knew the Illuminate were coming and we got them. I was like, hey, there's got to be more units in this. So that's actually what I want to start out talking about today. And I've got Mr. Me here. I think he's going to help us out a bit, and we're just going to chat a little bit. And I think it's very, very can't talk. I think it's very safe to say that we will see some of these units being added to the game. So let's bring in Mr. Me and we'll chat about it a little bit. Mr. Me, what's up, man? Thanks for joining.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
So,
And
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm just happy that we have the opportunity again to be incredibly xenophobic towards the squid race and potentially exterminate them.
Absolutely, for Super Earth. Well, I wanted to talk about some of these units because I did the math. I was counting the other day, and we have, by my count, we have five unique units. One of those is kind of, people would argue it's like a reskin or whatever, that it's just a modified version of another unit. When we compare that to the Tyranids, or wait, or they called it, no, the bugs or the bots, we find that they have a lot more units. So I just wanted to chat about that real quick. First up, we have, as far as scout units, we only have the Watcher, as far as I know. And it looks like in Helldivers 1, they had an Observer and then a modified version of that Observer. Are you familiar with this unit at all?
I mean, I looked at the wiki. I watched some gameplay. If I'm gonna be honest, it looks like a little tadpole type thing, just running around.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the scout units, I don't mind just having one type of scout unit. Although I would like to have more of those units that kind of are on like their own little like lonesome that can actually do some damage to you. Because right now, like the Watchers, it's like it feels more of an annoyance, if anything. Like you gotta kill them quick because they're gonna call ships. But the problem with that is that we have so many Thief Sam sites that it almost doesn't really matter. But I would like if we had some more deadly scout units to fight against. Just kind of have that little um extra engagement because now it feels like if a watcher joins this fight, it's like, oh boy, it's a big glowing purple ball or whatever shape it is. I can just shoot it super easily and it's done and then it's gone. But
Yeah,
in
well,
the fights, they
it,
kind of feel irrelevant.
yeah, well, the good news is it sounds like the Observer and the Obsidian Observer are basically just it says here that they're what quote unquote weaponized versions of the Watcher. So hopefully, because if you think about like the bots, right? You have the standard T1000 units walking around, but then we also have the Jetpack Brigade and like other things that kind of spice them up a little bit. So I think it's fair to say that, I mean, perhaps what we have is the weaponized version, but they specifically called it a Watcher, so that makes me think that the Observers will maybe pack a little bit of punch. If we can, maybe we can move on and talk about some of the kind of infantry units here. So right now we have. It's interesting because I think they're named different things. They have here listed is a tripod, which I think we know what that is. Hunter, Apprentice, Outcast, and Strider. Now we have so in this, I think it's the primary unit that I find difficult to deal with right now, which is going to be the Overseers. So I think that one of these units is the Overseer. But the Outcast is pretty interesting here. The Outcast is actually a stealth unit. So these are apparently, uh, you know, members of this civilization that didn't make the cut, and so they give them a cloaking device, but they only give them melee weapons, and they're sent out to hunt as kind of like punishment with like inferior weapons. So we might be
I
seeing a stealth. Go ahead.
I think we could see these eventually as similar to like the Stalkers, where they are a where they are essentially like a side objective. Potentially, like they could have like their own little base, and that's where they're coming from, and we have to go destroy that. Like very similar to Stalkers, just because when things are invisible, it it kind of seems a little unfair, and I hope that they're treated correctly.
Yeah, I think the stalkers are done pretty well. What do you think
Yeah,
about the stalkers?
I like them because they're scary, but they're not impossible to deal with.
Yeah, I mean they're really
Because
spicy.
it's like as long as you don't eat like any Taco Bell beforehand, and you don't got like you're not like fighting the battle, you won't soil your pants when a stalker comes up.
Oh man,
You
gosh.
know.
Thank you for that very vivid uh, description here. They also have, I think, the hunters and the apprentices are both maybe versions of what we're seeing right now uh, as those. What did I just say? They're called.
The overseers.
Yeah, the overseers. Yeah, exactly. So I think we could also see there's a tripod and then the strider, and it seems like the strider is just a more difficult version of the tripod. So I could see that being the case where we have another one of those units that's a little bit. I mean, the ones we have now, you can get the shields down fairly quickly. They're not super easy to kill, but they're also not crazy difficult. Maybe a couple of attacks instead of just one or something like that.
Yeah. Although I do like the harvesters that we have now because they're slow, they're big, they're not like the hardest to kill, but they will one shot you.
Yeah, I really like their beam attack is great, in my opinion. I think it's awesome.
Cause like you just like kind of see it like, and you're like, oh, this is it, it's coming.
Yeah,
It just clotheslines you.
and if you get really close to them, they'll zap you. Little bug zapper that works really well.
I know that Polaris has been running the arc armor, and just getting under them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's actually one of the things I recommended when I did a quick gear guide on these guys was running that for the same reason as that, and the Watchers will do the same attack. Not to mention the Tesla towers. So it really helps if you want to get up close and personal. I often run the jetpack, so I like jetting in with it and then getting out. Now, one of the things that I was really surprised to find because I didn't play the first, I didn't play Helldivers 1. Listed under like tanks, I guess is like heavy, infantry, is something called the obelisk. Do you know about these guys? Are you familiar with
I
them at all?
I don't know a thing, but they're the tanks. I think we'll see them eventually.
Well,
'Cause I think
tank should be in quotes.
I
Can I tell you about them real quick?
yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So they're heavily armored and shielded. They're basically like just like a round dome thing, and they apparently can teleport themselves around. They project a strong energy shield that actually in Helldivers 1 prevented anything from passing through it. So this could be like something that ports around, has a really strong shield, and it sounds like you have to destroy it before you can destroy anything inside of it, which I thought was pretty interesting. But it doesn't actually move around. I assume that the teleport is on some sort of cooldown, but I'm not really sure. Or maybe gets dropped with some units. Who's to say?
It could be like a factory strider on the bot front where it spawns the units.
Oh, that's a good idea too. Hey, what's up, Daedric? There's a chest full of loot to my left.
Although definitely the illusionists and the council members are what I'm waiting for, because we kind of need that big scary, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about these units. Do you know anything much about them besides that they're, I guess, supposed to be better?
They have that. They have like the shields. They have a couple different range attacks. But the way that I am thinking about them is, they're the ones that are running the show like in the Illuminate's like kind of society. So, ending them will probably feel awesome.
Yeah,
Just potentially, because our citizens are going somewhere, and it's probably because of these guys.
yeah, right. Yeah, so these guys have shields similar to what we see on the tripods now. And it also says they have like mind altering powers. I mean, one's called an illusionist, and the council member I think is just a better version of that. They're the masters of the Illuminate race, and I could definitely see whenever you get close to one of the neural disruptors, I think is what they are called, where your vision gets a little wonky. It messes with your stratagems being called in. I think we could see some pretty interesting effects from these guys like that. And I'm here for it.
I dig it. I dig it.
The last thing here is that there's also something called the Great Eye. Are you familiar with this guy at all?
Not a bit.
Okay, I'll just read this here because I think it's pretty funny. Intel suggests the Illuminate Great Eye to be the large AI creatures monitoring the Illuminate society and correcting any discrepancies in behavior or even thought. The Great Eye is heavily armed and might even hold the keys to their weapons of mass destruction. It is imperative that the Great Eyes be taken out. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So, kind of interesting. I don't know really anything about them. You know, it says something about like stun fields and mind altering orbs, and it kind of looks like a giant cannon or something. But I think one of the other things on the same note that we haven't seen is what kind of bases. Like, we don't have like a Mega Nest version of any of the Illuminate stuff. So I think that's the last thing that I think we could really see.
Very true.
Well, I just want to talk about some of that because I think it's pretty interesting. So we'll call it here. I'll probably clip this and put